Ladies and gentlemen of the internet world, we gotta finish this Stella. Which means these are back-to-back videos for me. But I'll probably release them on different days, maybe a couple days in between, because my content slowed down a little bit just because of life. I sort of talked about it, I guess, a couple times. I don't want to just drone on about the same stuff. But let me show you what we got today. So this is from the Jomo collection. Just bring it right in. So Jomo, if you guys didn't know, I've mentioned a couple times. He's a fan. He sent me a bunch of stuff to review, and in there was this, the Kinetics Pentagon. I was debating this review. He sent me these, so I definitely wanted to take a look at them, but there was a bit of an issue with how they treated our man Heck. And I don't know the whole story, and there's two sides to every story, and I think especially with the scenario of, you know, there was stuff going on between him and the guys making this, and I think there was some definite language barrier issues because I chatted with these guys a little bit around the same time as well. And I just think, you know, there was probably some stuff lost in translation, but more or less they did our boy Heck wrong. So I was actually looking at purchasing one of these, and then I backed out, you know, because he was starting to like endorse these and you know, look at helping distribute them in the States, and then it all came undone. Like literally, he was promoting these guys. I was thinking about it, ordered one. Next day, hey, these guys are screwing me over. Canceled the order. So, but anyway, it comes in I'd say a nice wooden box. Now, especially with the weather in the winter, right? We've got some pretty serious deformation going on here. So, you know, as you know, the wood shrinks and it's glued, it's gonna kind of do this. So I don't know if in the summer it will get better, but as it shrinks, right, it contracts, it pulls against the glue on this side, so you get this bending action. So, but other than that, I mean, it is a decent box. I mean, I'm sure that's pine, nothing crazy, but it's laser engraved, and you know, it's a decent little spinner. So it comes with a little burlap sack, comes with a tool to remove it. Now, until doing this review today, and I'll be honest as well, I haven't carried and used these a whole lot. They're a little big, they're a little weighty. Again, is there something in here? A couple extra screws? Oh yeah, a couple extra screws, that's nice. That's nice. So, all in all, decent packaging, all things considered. I didn't even notice that this was in there. I just assumed this was a spare bearing, but it's not. It's some sort of adapter, but it looks like it's not for a 608. For an R188, so I'm not sure what that's an adapter to. Maybe a 606 or a 688. Probably one of those. Maybe a 696 like the Hyperstone uses. Who knows? But anyway, so it's not a spare bearing. So this is all stainless steel. It comes with, where's the little card? We'll find that in a second. It comes with, it's a 608. It's giant buttons too. It's a 608 bearing in there. Big old buttons, plenty of grip. Pretty flat buttons with the logo Kinetics, you know, carved into there. Bunch of dots around the outside. Pretty nice. Let's actually measure this because I want to say it's something like, I don't remember. Here, let's turn this on. Are my calipers dead? How could they be dead? Huh. Well, I guess they're dead, internet, so let's use, we still got this over here. This doesn't run out of batteries, does it? Old faithful. Let's measure these bad boys here. Yeah, what is that, 34, 33 millimeters? So, big old buttons. And essentially what you got is you've got a plate, a big piece in the middle, and then a bunch of screws holding it together. Let's weigh this too. So this is the stainless steel one that he sent me. Now you have the option of when you get this in like any combination of this in brass and stainless steel. So they make the buttons, the plates, the body, all in brass and in stainless steel. So stainless steel in grams, 215 grams. 7.6, basically a half pound. Right, crazy. But spins all right. You know, it's got some good feedback. Now these, you know, this spun pretty good. It's got their logo with a little laser serial number on the side. So the packaging presentation is pretty nice. It's got these little cuts on the inside, so it's actually good for preloaded flicking. Being as big and weighty as it is, it actually has a lot of character despite not being a bar. You know, I've talked about that. Bars have a lot of character. Where this, you know, with like essentially almost like a unibody cog style shape, you know, a 5-arm spinner, which is going to be very balanced. Has some good character, mainly because of the 608 bearing, the feedback, and giant buttons. So you can spin this, rest it on your fingers, very easy. I actually didn't check the balance. Pretty good, all things considered. I've had a couple cogs lately where the balance was off, and I used to think that a cog would be easier to balance, but maybe they're more difficult. So if someone's a machinist and wants to let me know if that is the fact, where like a unibody spinner is a little easier to be off balance because of having to balance that hole directly in the center on all planes as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 planes, I'm not sure. I mean, in theory, you want it centered on all planes anyway, otherwise it's going to throw the balance off, but I don't know, maybe there's something to it. But anyway. But yeah, it spins pretty good. And for a 608 with as much weight as there is here, and it's not like doing anything to really throw the weight to the outside, it's still got, well, let's just do this. We've dabbled along. Oops, we've played around enough. What? So here's the card. So it comes with like a little metal card. Stainless steel and brass. Hybrid ceramic 608. Pentagon type B, serial number 43. So yes. Jomo has one of each. Now he had them, I think when he asked for them, he asked them to be brass, 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 and stainless steel, stainless steel, stainless steel, and they did brass, stainless steel, brass, stainless steel, brass, stainless steel, so they mixed them up on them. So I put them together the right way for the review. But you know what else, Internet? What? Yes, I painstakingly hammered this whole thing, and let me tell you, I got in over my head. I didn't realize how much work this was going to be. Look at that, would ya? Look at that hammered finish, like wowda. Feels really nice too. Now you can't get into with a hammer into these little crevices, but you can hardly tell. So, and they're pretty cool little, so let me take this apart here real quick. I'm actually gonna take this one apart. So when I hammered it, right, I had to hammer these edges too. And because of that, some of this got deformed just a little bit. Not enough, but when you tighten this down, you really can tighten it down to pinch it because some of the edges are kind of like bent down just a little. Not much, nothing that affects the spinner in any way. And because you're screwing it down, it, oh, you know what we could do? That looks pretty good too, doesn't it? But anyway, so the reason I wanted to get that other one out is I was going to talk about spin time. So with 608 spinners, you know, as big as they are, they still had pretty good spin time. So one of the bearings only got like 3.5 minutes. One of them got about 6 minutes. And for a 608 bearing to get a 6-minute spin time, you know, this would probably do really well with a R188 despite the weight. Prior to having a Zentri Evo in tungsten, which we'll be looking at some point in the near future, don't you worry. Suffice to say, it's Fidget HQ, it's tungsten, it's amazing. Love what you do over there, Raja, although I don't love the Patriots, so I'm boycotting your giveaway that you're doing for the Patriots win. I'm not boycotting it, I'm just not participating. Patriots make me sad. So see that? Boom, look at that, pops right out. So it's a full ceramic bearing that's in there. Pretty good feedback. Free Sport too, I don't know. It just looks like a nice bearing, all black, murder bearing. So essentially you can see what's going on, right? You get these thick plates, and then the bearing just gets squished in there. What else you'll notice? Trit slots. See what happens there? Trit slots, you don't have to glue the trits in, so you can switch your trits out, which is kind of nice. So I like when that's an option where you can get a trit in without having to glue, because the glue, one, is a pain in the ass, and then two, it lets you switch it up. So now with this, I don't think it matters, but just as a general rule, Internet, when you're screwing things in, you should alternate the sides that you screw it in. So you should screw it in just about to where it stops spinning freely, and then alternate. Alternate sides, alternate corners. You don't want to screw everything down all on one side, because then you can throw the tension off and twist things a little bit. So on a spinner like this, and the way this is holding it, probably not a big issue. And then you tighten it the same way, where you tighten alternate sides. there you have it. So that's how that thing goes together, comes apart. So let's get out of there. Now, if you did switch a bearing out, if you put in some sort of like converter, keep in mind like these are super thick bodies, so you're gonna have to get creative, right? I'm pretty sure I did a video on this, right? Didn't I do the video on this, right? Where I had to get creative to get buttons to fit on this big bad boy. So if you're thinking about getting one of these and thinking about throwing in 188 in there, keep in mind you're gonna have to figure out some buttons because these are tall spinners. So let's take a look at this hammered finish one a little bit. So. You know, so all things considered, as much as I don't want to give this a lot of credit, because again, we're team Heck Ferula all day, every day over here. We are FC Essentials folks. Let's finish this for Heck. I mean, it was just the end of a beer, so it's not like anything impressive. Don't. Oh, we left a little bit in there. Get it all. But anyway, so yeah. So despite not really wanting to support them, and I'll never buy one, it was nice to get my hands on one. I'm a fan of big giant buttons like this, and it throws really well. And then with the hammered finish, you know. Now, when I first hammered it, I'd hammered just the plates and then reached out to Jomo and said, hey, what do you think? Do you want me to hammer the rest of it? Because it kind of looked nice having the contrast. But I think he's right. I think the whole thing being hammered is good. The biggest pain in the ass with this, I'll be honest. So if you see these edges, it had these little machining steps in it that you can still sort of see. Those were almost, I don't want to say they were impossible to hammer out. I could have probably hammered on that all day and gotten it, but it's also at like a weird angle. So when you're hitting it with a hammer, it's hard to hit it like this, but it's hard to support in a way so you can hit it like straight on. So it's things you don't realize, you know, it's that hammer life. I did not hammer the buttons. I was thinking about it. I didn't even polish the buttons. I'll reach out and ask Jomo if he wants me to polish the buttons. But with buttons of this size and the amount of hammering, hammering buttons like this, it's going to be very easy to deform and bend the buttons, and I don't know if it's really going to add a lot, and I think that adds some good contrast, having the buttons not hammered. So I won't be hammering the buttons. Even if you really want me to hammer them, Jomo, I'm not going to do it. But I will polish this if you want me to do it. But I kind of like that patina. It kind of gives it a little bit of contrast. My light's pretty bright here, so I don't know if you're really seeing the contrast. And if you look, like I did flitz this, internet, but if you look at how shiny and polished the hammering looks, it's because you need to polish the end of your hammer. Whatever marks are on the hammer are going to be transferred to the spinner when you're hammering it. I probably should polish this again with the amount of hammering I've done. But you can see this is the kind of finish that it had, and it would transfer those lines. Like, you know, think of it like a stamp. It's going to transfer whatever's there. So if you get a hammer, I almost guarantee, unless you spend a lot of money, it's not going to be very well polished, but it's not that difficult to polish with a couple grits of sandpaper the way we do everything else around here. So polish your hammers if you want a nice, shiny polish like this, because I'll be honest, it looked almost exactly like it did. There was just a little bit of patina, and I don't know why. It was weird. It was almost like a little black in the crevices from hammering it. My hands were getting black from hammering it, so it was where it didn't have that black, and honestly looked just as good. So, and it actually left the laser there. I thought it might take that laser off, but it stayed right there. Look, in that light, it's fine. But you can see it's all hammered. And let's look at this again. I want to show you one thing, because I still see people doing this. When you hammer something, you have to hammer every bit of it. You can't miss certain bits, because when you do, that's when the hammering texture loses its finish. Now, if you'll notice, there's no part of the surface that isn't hammered. Right, every part of the surface, which means this took over 2 hours to do. That's a lot of hammering, let me tell you. But you have to get every bit of the surface. Maybe we can find one little spot that maybe I missed to show you what I'm talking about. But when you miss certain spots, that's where it starts to fall apart and starts to look weird. When you've got certain flat spots that haven't been hammered. So you gotta hammer the whole thing, internet. So. What else can we say about this guy? We kind of got away from the fidgetability of this, and we're just talking hammering and stuff. But it's heavy, but it's got plenty of grip. The screws on the top, if you don't like strip them and you're gentle with them, you don't cause little burrs in there. So then the screws are actually really good things to pull against. Even if you miss a screw with these steps, what is that from? It's easy to pull off of. So it's easy to pull, it's easy to throw, all things considered. Now it's big, it's heavy, it's gonna cause probably a little bit of hot spots, especially when, you know, it's hammered. Sometimes you get these little, where's my hammer? It doesn't take much to hammer them back down either, like. But you get little burrs on there. But they're not too bad. I don't really feel them, actually, surprisingly. Especially for having a lot of weight and a lot of mass to slow down. But I think it's just my fingers are tough, y'all. Let's weigh the brass one. We're all over the place, but you like my scatterbrain reviews, don't you? Yes, you do. Don't pretend you don't. You wouldn't have watched this long if you didn't. 228. What is that in ounces? 8.7 ounces. Over half a pound. So, can we recommend these? I'll give it the 1 thumbs up. I think if you're into big, heavy spinners and you like big buttons, and you cannot lie, you'll enjoy this. But if you're like me and you want to support, it's not even about supporting, heck. It's, for me, it's about, well, you did my boy wrong. Tell you what. No, thank you. But they're fun. They're big, they're fun, they're heavy spinners. It's not going to be something you really EDC, but it's fun to show off. It's kind of cool to have and to experience. If you really want this weight, get yourself a Zen Tri Evo. I don't have it up here, do I? I'm looking around my hobby space, and I do not see that in here. We're going to be reviewing that soon, so remember the weight, right? This was 228, this was like 217 or something like that. So if you really want to feel that weight, just get yourself some Fidget HQ tungsten. But at the same time, you know, being objective, it's a fun spinner. I'd probably actually would still probably give it a 1 thumb up if I wasn't, even if they hadn't done heck wrong. Just because it's so big, it's not going to be for everybody. The good little galloping spin, dun 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 dun. It kind of feels like you're galloping. And this finger's just out here not doing anything. He's just along for the ride. He's just ghost riding. Ghost ride it. Ghost ride the spinner. How would you ghost ride a spinner? I guess it would just be like this, right? Like, ghost ride it. Ghost ride the spinner. E40. Hyphy. Anyway. I think that's all we have to say on it. We went on long enough, right? Go like this. See how close we can get them and scare you guys. You can't really see quite how close it is, I think, with the frame rate and the way it's... Ugh, slowing it down made him tip. Yeah, good. All right, kisses, Internet.